Yo, what up, YouTube? What up, Twitch? I'm gonna be making some moves in the next couple weeks. Might be live streaming on there, so if you're trying to support the stream, you've always been trying to support the stream, you could definitely dip me with a super chat or whatever that is. I don't know how that shit works, but we're gonna figure that out. Today is not about that. Today and yesterday were stark contrasts in weather to the summer, and fall immediately arrived for at least a week. As I ponder and sit over the feelings that come over me when a season changes, and I recognize how, I guess, not how the world works, but like more my attachment to seasons and seasonal depression, if we go in that direction, or blah, 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 there's still always going to be stories that ground me at some point or another. And when I feel like it, I want to tell you those stories because I feel like the most important thing I can do here in my time, as long as I exist, is to still leave a legacy of what certain events and moments felt like to me. So that way people who are growing up can rewatch these or visit these and be like, yeah, I felt that too. I wanted to talk to y'all today not just about the feeling of fall and the changes. I wanted to talk to you about a moment that I guess now that I reflect on it had more significance than I ever thought, but it never applied to me so deeply until just like yesterday, if not this morning. So we're going to have to go back because my birthday's next week. Not next week, it's in a couple weeks. We're gonna have to go back 18 years. Fully grown adult child years. We're gonna have to go back 18 years to when I was 12 years old. I remember that my dad had suddenly come forward to me and he was like, yo, I'm finally getting a settlement from the telephone company. And we're finally going to have a little bit of floating money around. So I want to do some new things with the house. I want to blah, blah, blah. If I had known what I known about my dad, like full face on what I know now, I would have seen the inevitable terrible things that were going to come from this. But I was a kid at the time, so I cut myself some slack. And I remember that my dad gave me like almost $2,000. I wasn't supposed to spend all of it, but he gave it to me to say, go to the game store and get yourself all the stuff that, you know, you always wanted to get. Cause I never got a chance to have systems and this and that and everything. So I was, of course, like, yo, cool, dope, absolutely. You know, why not? I remember going to the first game store, Game Plaza, and I remember I was buying the new PS2. I remember I bought Kingdom Hearts 2 when that came out. Bought a bunch of other PlayStation games. I think I bought SmackDown versus Raw 2006. You know, it was, or it might have been even 2007. To be honest with you, it was a grand time for, I guess, the evolution of games. You know, GameCube was fresh. PS2 was fresh, Xbox 360 was fresh. So I'm here buying all the systems. I'm getting the newest games because like I finally want to experience this shit. And I remember at the second store I went to, right around the corner from the first one. Because, you know, you got to give patronage to game stores because this was before the digital marketplace was a huge thing. You had to go out and buy your games like I did back in my day. I went inside the store and I'm looking around thinking about all the shit I want to buy. So I'm picking out this, picking out the newest Mega Man. I'm picking out this and that. And as I get up to the counter, the guy said, the guy working there, I had known him for a while now. So it wasn't like him approaching me for a conversation while I was buying games was ever going to be something that I would find, you know, weird or whatever. But I remember specifically him looking at me and saying, why are you so interested in all these games? And I told him like the legitimate truth as a kid. You know, my dad would always promise to get me this, promise to get me that, and he never did it. So the first time he was going to give me a chance to do it, I was, of course, going to sit here and like, you know, enjoy what I wanted to enjoy. And I was getting PSP games, all that shit. And he said something to me, which is the point of this story. that really struck me as different, expecting not for the conversation to go in this direction. And so, insofar that I never wanted or expected any adult around me to be looking out for me that wasn't a teacher. He said to me, "Why are you spending all this money on games and not using any of that money to, buy a book or whatever?" And so I looked at him, obviously, as a kid, and I was like, "A book? I mean, I do read because I was an avid reader as a kid. I do read, but like I've never thought about buying a book." And he's like, "You're gonna be missing out on all the historical facts. You could be learning about Cleopatra. You could be learning about Black history. You could be learning about all this stuff, and you're gonna spend most of your time and most of your money on games that aren't gonna last so long in the experience in the long run. But that knowledge that you get." And once I heard the knowledge shit, I was already a teenager. Oh my God, I gotta gain knowledge. I gotta gain inspiration. I gotta gain wisdom. And as the fall was hitting, I started thinking about that moment. And I was like, every fall, I've had this expectation until, let's say, until the pandemic hit. I've had this expectation that, the school year is starting, and me being a teacher, that's where things are going to start revving up again. The summer was a nice break, but, I got to get prepared. I got to get ready. And I remember this morning thinking about it and looking around and saying, my living situation wasn't the greatest. I was with a drug abusing father, very isolated. I would get outside, but it's not like I could talk about what was going on. So every time I would go outside, it would pretty much be an escape from the whatever reality I was experiencing inside the house. And I just looked around and I was like, what's funny? All those games that I bought, all that stuff that I thought was like, the coolest at the time, most of it either got sold by my dad, outphased by the other things that I was doing. Like I barely have anything from that money era left. And I've had multiple money eras in my lifetime, and the only thing that really still exists is my PS4 collection. And my PS4, that's about it. Everything else I bought on my own. And I read The Alchemist a couple months ago, and it's like I've been denying myself the experience of reading that book for almost my entire life, and it's amazing. That book probably professed more change in my life than any game I've ever played that wasn't like an emotional experience, like Undertale, for example. Everybody brings up Undertale. I said Overtale, amazing. Can't wait for the comments to roast me on that one. And as I was building this understanding, the fall air in the morning hit me. And I just said to myself, rarely do you ever get a chance to slow your entire life down and be like, yo, look at what's changed. What's changed? Because you're so worried about the next day and getting paid and getting food on your plate, getting this, getting that. And I'm looking around and I'm like, I'm not interested in the same thing. I'm not a kid anymore. Like physically, I'm not a kid anymore. Nothing of what I do is kid-like. Nothing of what I talk about is kid. I might have youthful energy. I definitely could say I'm one of the most exciting people to ever grace this platform because that's just what I do. But I'm not a kid anymore. The feelings of judgment that I would experience every day from trying to find something to like, something not to hold me back. All of that has been stripped away from me, whether it be my friends dying, whether it be me moving out of my house and recognizing my dad's semi-abusive tactics that he would consider not abuse, but that's still propaganda in my head from the fact that he told me that your life could be a lot worse. At least your house is clean. At least you got a place to lay your head, that type of shit. I never thought about what it was like to not just be looking at changing other people's lives. Because all I've ever done since I've started this is try to change other people's lives. And I recognize that that comes from some innate want to help, and that's not always the best thing when approaching every single topic, because as much as I can empathize with how you got to the conclusion you got to, you're still denying climate change. You know what I mean? Like I can have all the feelings in the world for everybody. But then I'm looking down my friends list, I'm scrolling and I'm thinking about all the times that we shared and all the videos and everything. And I'm like, as much as I feel isolated and lonely, not in the realm of like real life, I got plenty of friends. I literally go hang out with people almost every other day after stream, of course. But like the type of friendships and the type of activities all reminded me of that one sentence. Why are you spending all this time on stuff that's going to be temporary when you could be building something that could lead you somewhere else? And what the fuck am I to be that echoer of statements when I am literally Twitch streaming, literally YouTube streaming for entertainment? And that's kind of been my philosophy, is could I combine the two? Could I play a video game and also give you an experience like The Alchemist? Probably not possible unless I put a lot of work into it, which also would fall flat on its face because it's not like my audience is super large. And I don't have any problem mentioning that out loud. We grow it, we move it, right? We move it. So the introspect started to hit me because I'm looking down at like, what's the next game I'm gonna play? What I got all the yeah. That was the sentence that really drove it into my head. Because I'm looking down at my emulators and I'm like, yo, I got every game I ever wanted. Literally all that money that I spent back then on Kingdom Hearts, Chain of Memories, Uncharted, this game, that game, all of that shit is right here in front of me. I could play anything whenever I want to at any time. I could stop talking about politics forever and not even be able to get through some of the longest PlayStation 2 games, some of the longest PS1 games, some of the longest Game Boy Advance games. Hell, we could go GameCube games. We could go Dolphin emulated. I could probably run some Switch games on here if I tried hard enough. I could probably run, I got Xbox Pass for a month. I could play Knights of the Republic. I could do whatever. I can sit here and write down every thought that I've ever had into a document. And for 6 hours, I just keep writing silently. And I never stop writing until I get all the thoughts out of every story I've ever had at any point. I'm talking Boys Club, Blastmaster, Kelvin Santos type beat. Y'all don't even know who that is. I ain't even get to that story yet because I want to have him on the stream. All these memories are more important than the investments in time. Like, yeah, it costs money to buy Super Smash Bros. Melee, but when you don't have a GameCube and you meet a bunch of friends who are like, yo, look at this game where you can fight as everybody. How do you hit A? Special attacks are B? I don't know nothing about a fucking wave dash. I don't know nothing about a one frame link. I don't know nothing about frames. But I had a group of people around me that didn't give a shit about that. Now the money and the focus and the attention that we spend on these platforms are to prove that we are worthy of discussing or doing whatever it is that we want to do at any given time, we feel this empty void that has to consistently be filled by the best. And it might not be the best at a video game, but it's the best at what makes you feel happy. That's the consumer market. It's always been that way. But when you got millions of people all trying to provide for you while they're providing for themselves, are you providing for yourself or are you just consuming? So what am I to do? Give you a bunch of video games with no premise, no story, no motive, no drive, no lesson at the end. I just do it and it ends. Or do I try to make you feel like that guy made me feel? All that money, and I could have bought The Alchemist a long time ago and probably would have came to recognition of what was going on in my life way earlier than reading it through a book or experiencing it through other people who said Santa isn't real. What is the catalyst for every decision that we make, every word that comes out of our mouth? What is the cornerstone point of why you ingest content in the first place? I don't want you to become introspective and start looking at every content creator saying, are they worthy of my time and attention? Daily Dose of Internet exists. What the fuck is that more than an aggregate of videos? Like, I'm not asking for that. But in 15, 20 years, when climate change takes its eventual toll, when do you want a speaker to speak up for human rights if you're afraid of fascism and the fascists come into town and we got the whole Heil Trump or whatever type beat? How much entertainment will give you that same escape that I had growing up? Saturday morning cartoons? Oh, I used to love that shit. I wake up 6 o'clock in the morning, grab a bowl of cereal, and I was tuned in. Kids don't have that nowadays. What do they have? Do you know? Do you care? Should you care? But still spinning in my mind is that phrase that dude said to me. Why are you spending all this money on games when you could be buying a book? At least one book, 2 books. They mad cheap. You could probably get 10 books for the cost of this one game. For a game that you will probably stop playing because you're going to go to college one day. You're going to be a doctor. I'm not saying that's what he was saying, but like, you're going to be a doctor. You got no time for no video games. You got to study. You want a pathway for yourself. If you're going to start this way, you ain't never going to end up over that way. And as I'm picturing it, as I'm watching every student I've come across, while that sentiment may not remain equal across time, because for all we know, and I'm sorry to make a Genshin Impact reference, I'm really sorry. Trust me, I hate it as much as you do. In the future, we might get Akasha terminals, and all the wisdom in the world we can answer questions at the blink of an eye. But wait a minute, don't we already got those? So maybe books aren't as important, but I already made a whole segment about that called Students Don't Want to Read No More. So we're not even going to jump into that. But what we will jump into is the amazement at that statement. I feel like wouldn't hit if I said it to another student. So I say other things. I say from the books I've read. I give quotes and allow them. That's why I like film, and that's why I like teaching film and photo, because art is the biggest self-expression that you're probably going to get in an age where, as much as you think you pretty and you hot, you going to use CapCut just like all the other bitches. All the bitches in your school using CapCut to make themselves look good. And you're going to be like, why don't my edits come out as well? I wish I could learn about it. Why? Just use CapCut. Use Video Cut AI. Take the process out and realize that you're left vulnerable with just you. Now replay this entire segment back, and after you've heard that sentence, to see if everything I've said to you sticks. Take the work out of it, and all you are left with is what you provide. CapCut's great at editing videos, but if your footage sucks, the end cut is gonna suck. So no matter what you do, no matter how you live, you could be a business finance major, a yoga teacher, table tennis, professional FPS player. At some point, the introspect is going to hit you because it has to. Because it has to. And it's not fair to me and to you and to everyone around us that there is no point in time where you can just stop and breathe. Is that by design? Is that capitalism? Is that the whole other thing? Yeah, we could go into that later, but I'm trying to relate to you. It's because nobody's told you it's okay to look backwards. Everybody want to move forward, but your demons, nah, that shit you did in 12th grade to that girl, that's still haunting her to this day. You can't just say you moving on, baby girl. We done shared shit together. You can't say, yo, I'm sorry I shot you in the leg, bro. Nah, I can't walk right because of that. And now we're able to see the lasting effects of it through the genocide in Gaza, through what's happening in the Congo, through what's happening in Sudan, what's happening to the Uyghurs. But we can also see the joys and we can see everybody's internal monologues about situations that they're in. Because they can put their phone down on the table when they feel uncomfortable and show the entire world, yo, look at what this man's trying to do to me. He's really trying to kidnap me. The introspect now comes so far and so under and so deep and so unwilling to be released, to be let go, that you have no choice but to decide for yourself. Will you blank it out or will you confront it? Is Yu-Gi-Oh not fun because the cards don't make sense, or because you don't really got a bunch of friends around that would want to explain it or go through it with you? Yeah, there's a there's an app for that. If I'm going through it, what type of identity do you think a kid has born in the year 2010? Because they would be 15 right about now. Everything that I talked about was laid out in front of us as the growth of technology burst onto the scene. You think the PSP was an accident? You think this DSLR camera that I got up here shooting in 4K right now got me looking all beautiful and glistening, got the background all nice and blurred? You think that was over like a couple minutes? No, we started with SLRs. But who gives a fuck about the past, right? Am I living in the past? Am I living through the best times? I'm telling you about the worst times. I'm living in the best times of my life right now. But those demons, sorry to quote, bring me the horizon, but they know how to swim. So what do? What do you do when this question is posed to you as an adult? Read? I need to be applying for jobs. The inflation is crazy. Inflation is crazy. But so was that Sonic game that came out for the DS. Sonic Battle for the Game Boy Advance was amazing. The Mega Man Battle Network series was amazing. Who gives a fuck? They just released the Legacy Collection. I could play the entire fucking season right now. It won't give me that same joy as a child. So everything that gave me joy as a child has literally been swept away and replaced by things that frustrate me, things that I gotta invest time into that I barely feel like I'm allowed to give myself time for in the middle of my career, in the middle of that. So everything gets sucked out. And as it starts to get sucked out, time continues to move. Will I be for? This is what makes niggas go into midlife crises. So I'm helping y'all out by discussing this early. As that process gets sucked out, all that you're left with is you. That sounds familiar. Didn't I say that about 4 or 5 minutes ago? My G, it used to be cloudy. You remember that segment? Well, here's your next one. When it was fall, I used to feel like the world was floating. Now it just feels like I'm falling. But not slowly, at the speed of light. And there seems to be no ground underneath me. So what does that mean for those who were born after me? Just thoughts on the paradigm shift. Like, subscribe, hit the bell to stay notified. You already know what to do. Uploads when I can. Fuck your schedules.